I guess we'll get started. My name is Anthony Bendez. I'm one of the co-founders over here at Level Effect, and I'm over here today with Greg Ake, one of the other co-founders here at Level Effect, and Tallis Jordan, the author and founder of Team Ghost, and this exciting Detection Engineering 100 course that we're going to be talking about today. And this is a little AMA to talk to us about the detection engineering domain, the course that we have live right now, what we're doing, and just anything in general. So I'll pass it over to Greg and then to Tallis, and then we can just start rambling on. So Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you for that. I think that was a good overview. So again, yeah, I'm Greg. And my experience and relationship around detection engineering is I had to build a detection engineering program from scratch. So I work at a company, and we didn't have a formal detection engineering team. I originally, Level Effect was making a product, our own EDR, and that EDR was acquired. And a part of that was we needed to build a robust set of detections to support that product. So I took that on and did the trial by fire, learned F it, we're going live, we're going to do it live, and that is really my experience is doing it for a large vendor. I currently I'm one of the lead detection engineers on the team, and we monitor a little under 3 million endpoints. So a ridiculous visibility, see a lot of crazy things, and have had to deal with a lot of interesting things when it comes to writing rules. It's not always as easy as it seems. I think there's an art and a science to detection engineering, and I hope to touch on some of those topics in this conversation. Pass it off to you, Tallis.
Nice.
Yep, I'm Tallis. If you looked at the course page, you probably have seen a little bit of my background. I've run incident response programs, set them up with documentation and everything, threat hunting programs, and detection engineering programs as well, multiple places. I've worked at MSSPs and CSSPs for the most part so far, so anywhere from like 500 to 800 clients at a time, which can get a little bit crazy when you talk about hunting and detection. Right now I'm doing internal security stuff, so it is a bit different. So definitely something to figure out, but a lot more baselining on one more than the other, but topics for later, questions you can ask about. But yeah, I've done a little bit of everything, so.
Yeah, just a little bit of everything, and quite a few certs on the belt there too, right, Tallis?
Oh yeah, it's plenty, way too many.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's a little bit of an introduction on us, kind of what we're doing over here. So we can just start talking about the course, but I know there is one question here in the chat already that we can just kind of dive right into, and then we can start going off in different topics. But so someone's kind of mentioning over here that detection engineering skills for the 100 and 200 courses are expected for a junior person, and they're considering pivoting to the field and would like to learn and improve those missing skills. So I guess maybe Tallis, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the difference between the 100 and the 200 course and where they kind of relate to someone junior and getting into the field?
Yeah, I would say the 100 level is more oriented towards a junior level. The 200 level is going to be concepts you're talking about more with a mature detection engineering program when you're talking about using like model assisted stuff with machine learning, doing UBA, because that is a pretty high level concept in the grand scheme of things. It requires a lot of baselining of environments and things of that nature. The 100 level is really just teaching you the formats, teaching you the proper way to use them, and how to actually make them, document them, test them, et cetera, et cetera. So you're pushing good content to production for analysts and everything, or the greater public if you're doing stuff like open source. But yeah, hope that answers that question.
Cool. Yeah, and if we don't answer the question, you can always just follow up as well too inside the chat over here. I'm kind of monitoring it. I've got some weird emoji system that I think I'm gonna roll with and see how that works. Awesome. So another question over here: is there a home lab set up for students so they can practice after and during the course? What about that?
So in the later modules, especially malware analysis and attack emulation, I'll have a guide how you can set up your own lab. You can use outside the course. You could use it at work if you want to stand a lab up, et cetera, et cetera. So it won't be too complicated. Be pretty simple directions to follow. So yes, that's the answer.
Cool. Yeah, good.
I could touch on Windows XP's question, the first one about pivoting into the field. I think I've done a lot of interviewing. I've heard about a lot of different programs, and I think one takeaway, well, there's a few, but the main takeaway I would say is that the detection engineering field and discipline is still very nascent. It's still being defined. This course is one of the more mature technical courses that sort of, it's not saying this is the standard or this is the way, but it is saying here are skills you need to know to be adaptable to the field. And I think adaptability is very important, and having good research skills. Writing detections are the easiest thing I do in my job. Knowing where to apply the detection, when to apply the detection, and how will the SOC respond to that detection. That implies I have to understand adversary behavior, how they operate, what their potential goals might be. A term I use a lot is called fatal funnels. And the concept is you never want to be in a shootout in a hallway, right? You're exposed. So when we think about which detections we want to target and how we want to catch adversaries, we want to find them in their fatal funnels. Whether they're an advanced persistent threat, a nation state, organized crime, or like the smash and grab ransomware operators that are just operating on playbooks they downloaded from the dark web. Regardless of skill, they're going to go down those same funnels. They all need to do persistence. They all need to do privilege escalation. They're going to need some form of execution. If they're wanting to go after the wider network, they're going to need lateral movement. And there is a myriad of things that they could do. I mean, it's almost infinite. But if you really understand, the operating system in your environment, and your battlefield, that's your advantage. You can create your fatal funnels. You can create detections where regardless of sophistication and technique, you're going to get some signal in the noise that you can action. And all that is to say is, as I really think this skill field, this career field needs good research skills. So these courses are going to provide you with the tools and the processes to be able to define, create, produce, and refine detections, but it's still going to take some experience and exposure to threats. Like the course has real malware, it has real use cases, and I would highly suggest completing the course. And once you complete that, getting more malware samples, getting more PCAPs, getting more process logs, right? Whether you're going to emulate them with something like Atomic Red Team, like you've got to keep moving forward. And because this career field is nascent, it is very easy to create your own private repo. I think Talus mentioned in the DE100 channel, just, Atomic Red Team is pretty simple to get up and running. Just get a VM, get an EDR agent, whether that's Endgame or the Elastic EDR, previously Endgame, or like the Aurora agent, and you could just go to town, just testing and writing and refining rules. And you make that public on a GitHub, and you start applying to jobs, and you say like, hey, these are my own custom rules. Yes, Sigma HQ might have their own version of it, but this was my research. This was my, I chose this name. I chose the description. I set the severity for these reasons. And if you can speak to that, like you're very well on your way to getting a job in this career field. That shows a lot of initiative in how to be adaptable and apply detection content. And the last thing I'll say is maintaining your content is the majority of the work in the day-to-day. Like I said, creating detections are easy. Knowing when to create them is hard. What is harder is keeping them performant and good. Adversaries will change their techniques and methods. How do we keep our detection content fresh? By my rough anecdotal counts, about 60% of our labor time is spent on maintaining existing rules. So you get this sort of diminishing returns, depending on the size of your team and how many threats you're trying to detect, where just maintaining your existing rule set is the majority of your challenge throughout the day.
That's really good, man.
Yep. And to add to what Greg just said real quick, 'cause I feel like there's going to be a lot of piggybacking today. But in the course, you're going to be using Atomic Red Team to do emulation stuff, just like he was describing. And I do want to mention that in the course, there is a large focus on you conducting your own research for things. So during the labs, you will conduct your own research on stuff. Like it's one of the most important things in this field is knowing how to research and read documentation. You don't want to be the guy every day that's asking someone every 5 minutes what the answer is to something at work.
That's really good. And that's kind of what I was going to actually ask Greg, maybe talk a little bit more out on, is that like you made a huge reference to the attack lifecycle, kind of cornering the adversary in their tactics, right? So But then you also talked a lot about the technical knowledge to be effective in this domain of understanding the logic, the code, and the various tools. So I
Yeah.
guess like how important is that attack lifecycle and that CTI side of things? Like how does that really enhance you for the rest of detection
Yeah. I
engineering?
mean, I think in cyber we get so tired of saying that it depends.
Yeah.
But it does, and it simply depends based on the organization you want to work for.
Right.
So like where I currently work, we have a dedicated detection engineering team where we don't do the response portion. We are doing proactive research on threats. We're emulating them. We have like a test range. We're like trying to beat up our own technology, our own tooling. So we're doing like purple teaming, light red teaming kind of stuff. Um, and of course we're getting tons of wonderful feedback from our SOC on things we're missing, right? Like when I first started as a detection engineer, that kind of feedback like was just soul crushing to come to work every day and like, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this. And then you start to realize we'll never not miss something. We're always going to be missing something. But the fact that we have such a fast feedback loop is very, to me, that is success. The fact that the SOC can quickly identify things we don't detect, create a ticket, and get it back to me is wonderful. And we've taken the time to teach them Sigma, like we use Sigma as our sort of baseline standard for our detection. We've modified it since we have our own custom detection engine that we use, but we use like a Sigma Plus, I guess, variant. But when I think of the tools and skills that are needed for this job, it really depends on how it's applied. Threat intelligence is critical, but you don't need to know how to do it. You need to know how to infuse it and weaponize it. Like I work with an intelligence team that gives me data, so I build a relationship with them. I give them feedback on what I'm struggling to understand, or hey, we need to get better at detecting this type of threat or this type of behavior. Can you go give me a rundown of what exists in the intelligence sphere, so that you could start my research, and from there I might try to emulate things or do that kind of research. I think sort of what this maybe your question is getting to a little bit is like, how does an entry level person fit in the whole schema here? Um, and I could speak from experience of my working environment, again, it depends. It's not going to hold true everywhere. But on our detection team, we just have a backlog of a lot of tickets. So I need somebody who can competently write detections based on tickets that I've written. I don't have the time to do all the detections, but I've done the research, and you go down those rabbit holes, and you're like, okay, this would be a great detection opportunity. Here's a resource link. Here's like my initial hypothesis statement, what I think we could do there, and I'll just put that as a ticket in our like ideas backlog. Like I would love to have a junior person who's competent in the foundational stuff, who's diligent, and most of all passionate to really learn this field, because it's new and you're able to create new processes and things that aren't defined. Like I said, every business does detection engineering pretty differently, which is interesting. So you get to sort of create and make your own art out of it, which is really cool. And you have technical challenges to solve, which are not well defined. So if you like challenges, you're very passionate, and you're ready to just like roll up your sleeves and start knocking out tickets and writing rules and seeing, how does this stick, right? We're throwing the spaghetti at the cabinet and seeing if it sticks. Is this baked? Is this cooked well enough? And if so, it's going to go into production. And hopefully it provides value to the team and to the business. And if you support customers, does it provide value to them? And I'll just cap that off with saying, like, a good detection engineer understands the value of their labor, not in how much you get paid, but with the value you provide to the business. It's very easy to look at MITRE and say, we're gonna paint this matrix red. There's 12,000 procedures in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, if you weren't aware. No vendor, no company will ever detect all 12,000 things. You would render a computer effectively useless to do so. So it's just getting your head down, getting busy researching, and willing to learn. And there's a lot of places I think that are really open to junior analysts, because detection engineering again isn't really well defined, and if you show a passion in it, there's a lot of people willing to take a chance, I think, in this field.
It's awesome. Yeah. So a lot of good highlights there, right? Being effective and relevant to the business, good teamwork, collaboration, and staying focused. That's good. I think there's so much we can keep unpacking over there, Greg. I think you're adding a lot of good insight to what it takes. I see a lot of good comments too coming up. We got a couple questions too starting to pile up in the chat log, so I want to grab some of those. I guess the first one, David's asking if Greg, if you assisted with the course development. So I think it was entirely Talis, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was, and I'll provide some context there. So I was planning on before I ever heard Talis was making a detection course. Talis was a previous student of ours, but he really didn't need to be. He was already pretty well on his way. He was an advanced person, but we had a great time having him, and he just, I think you're the fastest completion of our CDA certification, right? Like you did it in under 2 days or something. It was nuts, really good.
Like 23 hours, I think.
Yeah,
Pretty proud of that.
Banged it out.
Yeah, man, it was just amazing. So totally loved having you in the course, but you were already well beyond. So I had my own curriculum. I was going to build a detection engineering course. I was planning on it, and my goal was to have it actually out by this time. And then Anthony was like, "Hey, Talis reached out to me. He's working on a detection course." And my first response was like, "Damn it," because I know it'll be good. And I said, "Well, if he wants some advice or whatever, like anything we could do to help, I don't want to, but then it's I don't want to see his curriculum and then we make one. I didn't, it was sort of like, eh." And then I can't remember how it happened, Anthony, but there was sort of Talis or you were talking and it was sort of 1 + 1 is greater than 2, right? Like if we partner up, we could provide more value long run for it. And then when I saw the curriculum, it was another oh shit, this course is good. It has everything. It was 99% of everything I had listed. So I was just like, yeah. And he was already well on his way, working on the material. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. Definitely Talis quality going to the nth degree and getting every little thing covered. I'm sure if you've had a chance, everyone inside of this chat right here and people listening to you after in the recording, just go take a look at the course as it is. The first couple modules, it's packed. It's a beefy course already, and there's several more modules to go. So I think you're going to get everything you need out of this course and more. But cool. So we got another question too. So Defender's asking, what tech stack do detection engineers expect to work with? Like the way SOC folks use SIEMs, so Splunk, Carbon Black, etc. We got a couple EDRs mentioned. What does that look like for detection engineers? What does your tech stack look like?
I mean, you're going to be working with the same tools the SOC works with typically, but it's by organization, right? And as Greg said before, this isn't the only way to do detection engineering. Mm-hmm. There might be some places, I'm pretty sure Tesla's detection engineers are strictly working out of Python with a SOAR. So that would be a completely different environment from most other organizations. But yeah, the typical tools you're going to see in a SOC are going to be the same tools you're working on. And then really because you're creating these detections for an analyst, threat hunters, stuff like that, these aren't for you specifically. So when we say these go to production, they get used by everyone. So every tool that everyone else is using pretty much is the easiest way to answer that.
Yeah, I feel like I can't remember the exact quote, but it's the whole Batman, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, right? If you're not hyper aware of how people are using your detection content, you can either be their greatest friend or their worst enemy. I joke with my SOC whenever they give me bad feedback, and I'm like, you're 5 rules away from me just destroying your queue. So just yeah, it depends. I think one thing I learned that was interesting to me is the type of environment and tooling and how that really dictates the detection engineering lifecycle. And as an example of such, some vendors don't, let's say their EDR product, their EDR doesn't pull telemetry back to a centralized location. So you can't really query. You can run hunt queries, but you have to know what you're looking for, right? So it's sort of, you have to know what you're looking for, and you're only going to get limited results. So it's a way more research intensive endeavor, and it's hard to know and baseline how your detections will perform, right? So in an environment where you don't have the data, they have to do a lot of research, a lot of testing. They might write only, tens of rules a month, maybe, because they need to deploy it to a small set of endpoints to see how many false positives and true positives they get, and they slowly roll out that rule to more and more endpoints and see how it performs.
That's something we talk about in the course too when we get to testing is having a lab that's most reflects your production environment as possible, which a lot of orgs aren't be willing to do
Hmm.
just because of the small costs associated with it.
Yeah.
But you can get as close as you can in your own lab using, open source tooling like Elastic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the other flip side of that use case I was speaking to is, like in my environment, we do collect a lot of telemetry, and I have I have a good historical context, so I can search millions of computers and I can write a detection and test it against historical data, and I could write a rule and misplace a wild card and be like, oh, that got 200,000 matches. Let me look at that rule. Okay, I fat fingered something, and now I got 12 matches. Okay, that's much more acceptable. So we're able to prototype things and get them into production much faster because I have data to research with. And it just really, like Talis was saying, it depends on the organization, depends on the setup. What telemetry do you collect? Data is expensive depending on the SIM that you use. It's very normal for a small to large enterprise to spend over $1 million on Splunk to store data for 7 days. So when you think about the budget of your security program, millions of dollars is sometimes being spent on just data storage.
Yeah.
And now you need the talent to query it, to write rules, to test them, to respond to them. It gets wildly expensive as soon as a business says, let's create a SOC and have our own security team.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really good emphasis on analysis of the terrain, making sure there's an understanding of that, like really proactive thinking. This is really good. So I think some of the questions starting to line up are kind of piggybacking off of what's being said right now. So how well do detection engineers expect to know and understand malware analysis? Because we're talking a lot about the pipeline, the life cycle, the business analysis, teamwork, etc., but maybe some more specificity over here. Like how deep do you need to understand that specifically, malware analysis?
So we'll have a whole module on this in the course, but you don't need to know, like extracting IOCs, right? Is a lot of time you're going to find that in threat intelligence reports already. And there's some pretty prominent people like Proxy Life when he was doing Qbot, and now he's doing some of the newer malwares already. He's already extracting all those IOCs. So to spend your time doing that is almost fruitless. And you don't really want your detections to be based off just indicators of compromise. Like, is there a time and a place for them? Yes. But ideally, you want to use behaviors. And primarily, not just to catch that one malware, but maybe another malware that comes up a week from now that uses the same technique. That can be difficult because, you might get a ton of false positives. But I would say as far as what you need to know from malware analysis, static and dynamic, like the basics of it, are definitely for sure thing you need to understand. And even if that's just conducting your own research, let's say you're threat intel people at work, or you yourself, if you don't have an intel team, have decided that this APT is a threat to your organization, go find the tools they use and techniques they typically use and perform malware analysis on the tools. Or if you can find a sample of some old malware they've used before, just take a look at it and see how it looks. That way you can know if it ever does pop up in your organization, what their typical TTPs are for malware.
Nice.
Hey, Talis, question for you. Can you elaborate really quickly on what an IOC is and how that relates to brittle detections and sort of the downside with brittle detections?
Yeah. So indicators of compromise. We'll talk about the pyramid of pain. You could Google it right now, really, if you wanted to. And it's kind of just, it's a great framework to say, the easy to change things. Like what kind of infrastructure can rapidly be torn down and spun back up for an attacker, right? You could probably drop some comments as we're talking about this, just naming some things off. We talk about like domain names, IP addresses, stuff like that, right? And then we work our way up to behaviors. And so that's when you can start talking about, to be simple about it, like lol bins, lolbass, whatever you want to call it, GTFO bins, stuff like that. Those are basic versions of techniques that you could model detections after. Another thing we talk about in the course. But really, you don't want to write detections on things that are going to change sample to sample. So let's say Proxy Life, for example. He's a researcher, did a lot on Qbot. If you go look at his GitHub where he stored all this data he's collected on Qbot over time, every single sample is using different IP addresses, different domains, yada, yada, but they're all following the same techniques as in like what file formats they're using, the execution flow of the attack, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, really good
Yeah,
stuff.
no, that's good.
We talk about that Oh, sorry, Greg. I was going to say, like,
No,
it's even in the fundamentals, right? Like, if you go to Cyber Fundamentals, our course that's sort of like our prep and prereq for everything, you even learn about the pyramid of pain over there. And we dive more into that into the CDA course. Like, you're going to keep seeing that model come up, kind of working up the quality of intel that you can get. So I love that you're referencing that, Talis, and kind of encouraging our listeners to know more about that framework and model. So
Absolutely. I just wanted to say, like, just to give some insight on the behavioral thing. When you look at like criminal organized crime ransomware operators, they're usually actually pretty unskilled adversaries. They follow playbooks, and they update their playbooks from time to time. Like they will deploy, Cobalt Strike, and they'll inject into there's usually a top 10 list of processes like run DLL, regserve 32, and things that they inject into. But prior to that, they do some staging, they do some host enumeration when they get initial access. And while their commands might change slightly, they do things in a similar pattern, in a similar cadence, in the order of operation maintains the same. So when you start to have really good detections, and I want to be clear here, I think of detections like signals in noise. A detection to me isn't something that means you must act on it. We're just defining characteristics of telemetry. So we're saying there's interesting things happening here, and if they are true positives, they have a range of severity. So just because something is a severity critical doesn't mean it's critical. It could be if it's truly happening and is malicious. But when you start to look at these signal patterns between incidents, and you start to do that like retrospective analysis of like how do we get better, you start to see that even though the individual commands might change, their patterns, their behaviors persist. You that's how you start to say, oh, it's this known Ryuk ransomware operator, or this initial access broker. They're well known, and they are modifying their AV bypass techniques and stuff, but they do it in the same order, in the same way, and they have the same goal, and there's enough similarity that it's the human. And I think sometimes we forget when we're chasing malware and writing detections that we're just fingerprinting things other humans have done. And this is sort of the art, I think, in the detection engineering lifecycle, when you start to see between the technical lines and you start to see the behaviors and the patterns. And of course that requires technical things like good data collection, correlation, visualization. You need tools to do this, but it relies on us as the analysts to make sense of that data, find those patterns, and find ways to create those fatal funnels around those behaviors so they can't continue to do it.
Yeah, that adversarial nature to it at the end of the day, human versus human, for now, until we start to see the next level of generated threats coming. It's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to be a whole new avenue to explore, right? Like when the tools increase for the attacker and defender on both ends. Cool. Yeah, good stuff. So I think we got another question coming up as well over here. Are detection engineering measures... So, okay, wait, let me reread that. What detection engineering measures are in place for protecting your intellectual efforts from getting stolen by another educational organization? And are you ready to take them to court?
I don't know if we're
Do you want to take them to court?
You know what? I mean, it is what it is. I'm not. Here's the thing, right? So I'll just go ahead and say this. There's a million courses, right, on some of these subjects in the course, all of varying quality and quantity, pricing. There's places that, make courses specifically about just Sigma rules for hundreds of dollars. All I want to do is give you all the skills you need to know at a price point that makes sense, so you're not going to 8 different places. But if 8 other places want to do the same thing, by all means. I'm not trying to gatekeep or make $1 billion off this. So, yeah, probably never going to go to court.
Yeah, I think the industry is pretty good at identifying plagiarism in training content and sort of putting people on blast. Like, that's nothing we really concern ourselves with. And I can speak for Level Effect. I think Team Ghost has a lot of the same principles, but we design courses to be living things, not something that's going to be static for a number of years. So if somebody stole my course content, I mean, that sucks. That's just never good. But what am I going to do? That's just incentivizing me to make my course better, and they're just not going to keep up.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, too, right? There's so much context that we're building the content with that if you were to sort of like copy paste, I think it would be hard to recreate the experience. I would say. But yeah, cool. So another question over here. Speaking of Python, how well do upcoming detection engineers expect to know, or rather are expected to know, some of the scripting languages like Bash, Python, at a foundational level, or aim for intermediate or advanced? What do you think about that?
So I think a lot of people get so focused because you hear it a million times, like you have to know how to program or you have to know how to script to do this. I would argue that's not the case for most roles. Is it the case here? Again, places like Tesla are heavily focused on Python, right, to integrate with their tooling for their detections. Does that have a place in malware analysis? Absolutely. Does that have a place in log analysis? Absolutely. And these are things we'll talk about. As far as, saying foundational level or intermediate or advanced, that's so arbitrary in most cases per person. With today's like ChatGPT and stuff as well, it's kind of becoming less prevalent for you to be like the equivalent of a software developer to have the knowledge to be able to script your program in cyber, as long as you're sanitizing it before you send it to the AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would echo all those things and also say that from an entry level position, I would think a very basic ability to be able to parse and read. You don't have, there's a difference between writing scripting, right? You have to understand the syntax, the methods that are available to you to debug and test your code. That's a whole different skill set. But if you could look at PowerShell and using things like AI or Googling or Stack Overflow to understand what it's doing, that's what's needed, right? Because you need to be able to understand how the adversary are using these tools so that you can extract useful information for your detection content. So I would say at an entry level, that is a good skill. But again, to Talis has said, it's so dependent on the organization and what you're going to be asked to do. So don't use that as a gatekeep to like, I'll never apply for a detection engineering job because I don't know Bash or PowerShell. Like, I've not personally seen anybody say, well, you don't know PowerShell, we're not going to hire you. Unless they're saying we need somebody who knows PowerShell to write detections for PowerShell abuse,
Yeah.
Then you want to make sure you know PowerShell when you apply to that job. But if it's not explicitly said, don't artificially gatekeep yourself by thinking, oh, I have to know all these things. You don't.
I think I'll add too on that as well. I think it extends to the rest of cybersecurity positions that a lot of these things are more like value based and business solution based. Like, what do you need to know about a certain technology or tool to solve a problem for a company? Because you could be very good and know that all the entire syntax of Python, but if you don't know how to program to solve a scripting issue or a bottleneck or an API issue, it doesn't matter. Like, you're just going to be trying to copy paste things back and forth, and you're going to hope you get something, and you're going to probably stress yourself out. So kind of thinking about it, like reverse engineering a problem step by step, and then applying the right tool or technology to solve it is quite applicable throughout cybersecurity. I would say it's not just even detection engineering, honestly. So keep that in mind too.
Truth.
So another question, which module are you most excited about making or have made, Talis? What's your favorite module?
Man, it's hard. I'll tell you the least exciting to write were the fundamentals.
It's the hardest, yeah.
It's probably the least exciting, but honestly, the rest of the course is pretty fun.
Yeah.
The malware analysis, attack emulation, I think everyone always enjoys, no matter where they're learning it or how they're learning it. So those are probably tied right now. The detection stuff can have some boring pieces when we start talking about, documentation and pipelines and testing. That can get a little boring, but it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's when you just gotta eat your vegetables, kind of move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's how it goes.
That's the part of the job that I just blink from my mind, the documentation.
Yeah.
And I want to just highlight that again. A good detection engineering program has lots of documentation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. Another question over here. When should we expect the course to be complete and go to full price? Pressure's on, Talis.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sometime this year. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's some things. So, you know, to also add on to that, David, so your question over there, Talos is going to be releasing content, like drip content. So once you get through with this first couple set of modules, the next one, I think we're aiming for a monthly cadence of just like additional drip content until it's fully ready to go. So you can look forward to that too. And then the exam will be coming right in line with it. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. And to jump on that again real quick, just so everyone's aware, this is going to be a living course. Like Greg said, that's the mentality of it.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the future, as I learn new things or new things come up in detection and engineering space, that will be stuff that's added to the course as we go. So where I learn in the future, even if it's a year from now, you're going to be learning it as well. It's kind of like going to kind of be like an encyclopedia for detection engineering.
It's a good way to look at it. Yeah. Like a good repository, reasonably priced, just like that's your bucket. Like just go there. Right. So cool. Nice. We've got another question here towards the end as well. So this is a little bit more about a personal question for you, Talos. What inspired you to be a teacher? And then some follow-up questions to that in terms of your accessibility and just ability to be reached out to. Maybe set some tone, some expectations, talk about what inspired you.
Yeah. So I've mentored a bunch of people. I don't mind teaching people. It's actually like a feel-good feeling once they actually achieve what they're going for. I think that applies to pretty much everybody. But, you know, I've done a lot of courses. And by a lot, I mean over 30, probably pushing 40, if not even higher than that. A lot of them are just filled with content that is so irrelevant. So you don't know as you're going through the course, right? And then once you actually apply it to your actual job or some hobby you have in the field, you're like, wow, I didn't need to know 80% of that information. Like, why did I need to know about version 1 features when we're on version 7? And a lot of courses are tied like very specifically to specific tooling. And Elastic is usually the big one just because it's open source. So you get a ton of background information on applying those principles to Elastic. And 2 of those 20 principles of how to apply it might apply to every other tool. So I think the biggest thing was I know I can teach people and I know I can make it very easy to understand, where most other courses are incredibly difficult to understand, have a bunch of history that's just completely unnecessary, which is fine if you want to go research it on your own. And just the verbiage used is usually overly complex, getting into like laying the stones on a like comp sci level of how tools work. Again, great information to know, but just not relevant when you're trying to get in the industry and learn practical skills.
Yeah, fair enough. So we're just kind of also laughing a little bit. Someone's requesting dark mode over here inside the chat. But
as far as accessibility too, I forgot.
Yeah.
I do kind of want to stick to the private course channel. If you have like specific problems that might, you know, like answer a lab or something like that, like obviously DM me. I'm playing with the idea of office hours, just being in the like voice chat for a little bit on the weekends. It's something I'll think about some more. And I know people have asked for like live versions of the course at some point. That might be a future discussion subject. So,
yeah.
Another question about how long the student will have access to the course after purchase, and does level effect do the 3-month rule, 12-month, or for life? Anthony, I think to talk on the level effect side, I'll just quickly say on the detection engineering course, it's for life, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And with our CDA live course, it's for life. I think we're looking at doing something like this, perhaps, with the on-demand version, Anthony?
Yeah, same thing. We're going to have some type of tiered access. We're just trying to figure out like what's the best way to do it, because some people just want to buy the course like in and out, kind of do their thing. But some students, like how Talos mentioned about his course, we're going to do the same thing. Like we're looking for that kind of living, evolving course where the CDA on demand will also be like a grounds where people can go to, and that's like your base entry to cybersecurity as a SOC analyst, tier 1 to 2 competency based. So I think we're both shooting for the same goal. We're going to have some lifetime accessibility options. I think Talos, you're only sticking though with lifetime as an option, but we're going to have that as well, and possibly some timed access. We're just trying to figure out that side of things. Hope that answers some of those questions. Yep. You're saying great. Okay, so that means you approve of that answer. Thank you, Defender. Do you have a theme that you use to hide your flags? I mean, well, we can't give away the secret sauce if we tell you the theme of the flags that we're hiding inside of our courses. We're not going to reveal our TTPs, chat. Just stating that right now. Cool. I think that was the last question over there. And wow, it's already... Have we been talking for 45 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That is going by quick. Okay, actually, we're getting close a little bit over. We were sort of aiming for like a 30 to 45 minute window. So we're coming up towards the end of the AMA. We don't want to take up too much of your time. We appreciate you coming in. We can talk a little bit more about... I got some questions I can sort of probe Talus here so that you can get some more insight on what's coming up. But does anyone else have any other questions inside the chat before I start doing some of that?
Yeah, it looks like some folks are typing.
Yep, I see some typing going on. Yeah, here we go. It's always like the, hey, but one more. Okay. So has the Detection 200 been released? If not, and when will it be available? And will there be a student discount when it's released? So Michael's ready to go, Talus. He's already ready for Detection Engineering 200.
We're pending some content decisions right now. So that's what I can say about that. Truthfully, though, the 100 level is going to be a course you need to take prior to the 200.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be missing a ton of context, just to be completely clear.
Yep, fair enough. So no, it hasn't been released, Michael.
Yeah, so I hear that as the Detection 100 needs to be, version 1.0 released, non-early access before 200 could even, before really content development can begin on that. So it's going to be next year at the earliest.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, it's probably accurate.
Yeah, it's a ways out. I mean, yeah, like on that note, we still need to get some type of feedback because Talus, you're working on the Detection Engineer exam, which I think is an industry first, right? I don't think there's an actual fully practical instructor reviewed exam coming up. I haven't heard of that.
No, I've not heard of anything like that either.
Yeah. So we're going to need to test that out. Once everyone's done with Detection Engineering 100, we're going to try to get that exam in the hands of everyone, and that's just going to be a really good practical way to demonstrate your competency and your ability to perform tasks of some type of detection engineering analyst or just purely engineer based. So that's coming up. So Michael, you'll have to get that done first, and same with the rest of the students, and then you can kind of go from there. We're going to have also, correct me if I'm wrong, so Talus, you're actually going to have Detection Engineering 200 exam as well after that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so we got a lot of things coming up. And some more questions now. So what kind of roles in cyber would these skills be tailored to? Are you talking about the detection engineering roles, David, or one of our other courses?
I mean, even in general, these are going to apply to most roles.
Yeah.
When you talk about foundational skills for just cybersecurity period, these are amazing skills to have at any level. I've seen SOCs that were responsible for writing detections. You see SOC responsible for malware analysis, attack emulation, anyone should be doing to conduct their own research, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, really, just across the entire industry, this is a good course for just about anyone.
Yeah, I'll add on to that too. Depending on the size of the business that you work at, like if you're not in the SMB bracket, if you're not enterprise, and if you're not working at an MSP or an MSP of any type of nature, you might be wearing a couple different hats. Like you might be a senior analyst / detection engineer / threat hunter / a little bit of compliance. Like you might have to do a little bit of everything. So the smaller your business goes, you might be responding to alerts, doing some triage, but then also be responsible for tweaking, tuning the ruling and whatever logic you might have to improve the posture of your terrain. So I think, depending on who you are, and inside the audience and where you're working, where you want to work, if you take this course, you could apply that to other positions as well, quite effectively, depending wherever you go. Yeah, see, there you go. We have a tier 3 in the audience doing a little bit of purple teaming. Exactly, like you're going to be doing a little bit of everything as you tier up in a smaller business. So are the exams going to be proctored is another question. TBD. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
TBD.
TBD.
Either way, all of your products produced in the exam are going to be reviewed by me.
Yeah.
So if you try to cheat, it's going to be very apparent.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Talis, that's a good point. I don't think we talked enough about that before we kind of start tailoring off over here. But you actually are going to be doing instructor, like yourself. You'll be reviewing the alerts, or not the alerts, rather the rules that that students are submitting in your course from the labs. Even like the labs per module, students can submit a rule to you for review.
Yep. I'll be cross-checking that before you schedule your exam as well. So if you've marked that you've submitted them for review and you haven't, I will know. The goal in that, right, is to make sure you understand these concepts and you're learning how to do your research on these things and understand what's relevant and what's not. That way, when we get to the exam, your detections are like spot on, and your documentation, because of that, will be amazing, right? And these are things you can show, like don't post them on GitHub necessarily, right? These are things you can show an employer during an interview or something like that. The goal is to get you to the level where I would be comfortable recommending you for an interview with a company for a detection engineering role. So if you can pass the exam, you've proven that to me.
It's a pretty big statement. So if everyone's listening, we're talking about a senior analyst over here, senior engineer, very cert heavy, a lot of good experience. Very senior positions in his experience as well too. He's making this course as a testament to say if you can complete it and you can pass the rule checks that he provides for you, like your submissions, in his opinion, that like you would be someone he would hire at that point. So I hope that kind of speaks to the quality of the course content you're getting and the instructor commitment as well. Cool. I see one more typing, and I think we're about to. Yeah, you're the lead instant response right now at 2K Games, right, Talis?
Yep. Doing some threat hunting and detection stuff there as well. I've worn like 3 or 4 hats every place I've worked, just about. So.
Yeah. So there you go. If you complete the course and 2K Games ever has an open position, I don't quote me on that. I'm just saying that.
I might have a soccer next year.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, we got some more people typing away over here too. We'll probably wrap it up here in a minute and kind of have like a closing statement from each of us, but let you all type.
Yep. And there's other things, and I talk about this in the fundamentals portion of the course as well. The SOC Prime threat bounty program, I used to work there. Basically, you apply for this program, you write detections, and if companies that are their clients use your detections, you get paid for that. Okay, so that's something the fundamentals really aims at, so that you can write detections well enough to be able to get into that program if your application gets approved and get paid for your work while you're waiting for the rest of the course.
Very cool.
This is just stuff that you probably don't know about, but it's extremely valuable, even if not just for your resume.
Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, if you're trying to apply as like a SOC tier 1 analyst and you've also taken the detection engineering course, like you're going to be that much more ahead of the competition for sure. And not just trying to like a shameless plug here. Like actually, there's a lot of good skill sets you can apply. You can come in as an analyst triaging some basic alerts coming in, but then also being able to provide feedback to your senior analysts or engineers of what they can do to improve the detection rates as well, which is super cool. A couple more questions. Okay. How this knowledge are applied for security engineer role? I see lots of engineering roles are more related to configurations, but also some want to build detections for automations. So,
oh man, the bane of my existence question. This question
I was about to say the same thing.
So much, and security engineer is such just a generic title, and so I've started telling people just stop worrying about the title, focus on the job description. So like security engineers at some places I've worked do strictly infrastructure and implementation things. No other operational, right? Some places they just do operational stuff. Some places they're doing like automation scripting and stuff like that. So don't focus on the title. This knowledge can apply to a security engineer regardless, really to any security professional.
Palace,
Yeah.
in my exposure and experience, and I'd love to hear your thought on it, speaking to the security engineer role, I think one of the key themes I've seen anecdotally regarding any role that's titled as engineering is there is a stronger focus and expectation of coding programming skills, whether that's cloud, Python, or like lower level languages. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah. Yeah, now I think about it, yeah. It's probably accurate.
Like a security engineer could be doing detections in like your use case at Tesla. You could call them security engineers writing detections, but they're deep in Python. Like they're writing code to do detections. They're not using Sigma or a YAML or a TOML format where you're just filling in key value pairs and saying, if this, then alert. It's much more complex logic and scripting.
Yeah. And sorry,
Looks like we skipped a question.
Yeah, I missed Augusto's question. I kind of went up the chat over there. So, Augusto, you're asking us over here. So, assuming this course will also help you implement Yara rules into the business, I guess the question is, what if they don't use Yara? If they don't have some type of tool like Yara, does the course cover enough teaching to teach an analyst taking this course how they could effectively apply it or a tool like it inside of the business?
Yeah, that's something we'll cover. Not in the fundamental section, because that is just how to use the formats, how to craft a detection to get you comfortable enough using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Later on, we'll discuss actually implementing it. But that's the great thing about YAR, right? It's free and open source.
Mm-hmm.
Nextron Systems, right? The real big brains right now surrounding Yara, they have tools that are even free, right? That basically uses a signature base of like, I think it's over 2,000 rules now. You can just put this executable on an endpoint, run the scan with your own rules ingested as well if you want, and it'll scan the entire system or whatever folder of files against thousands of signatures created by other people. So it's super portable, it's free and open source, and then we'll get into like how you should implement it. A lot of it does come down though to your executives and who's assuming the risk for using the tool if like it takes the system down, because it does take quite a bit of memory to run tools like that. Also depends on your rules, because some rules can take a lot of memory to run just themselves.
Good stuff. Yeah, there's that business communication, business understanding again. I think we might have one more follow-up question over there. Nope, it's just a comment. Cool. We're coming up to a little bit over, so appreciate everyone sticking around. I think it's been a really good conversation over here. A lot of good insights shared around, good questions, good engagement. We're definitely going to do something similar to this again. This is our first go, so I'm glad everyone has been so engaged and being quite active here in the chat. Will there be another CTF, Greg? Are you working on anything?
I have not started on one. I do think a lot of people really like that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
That took me like a day to pull that off, like a whole day of pulling my hair out to get it all. So I'd like to do more. They aren't too hard to do. I'm just terrible with time management. So once I find some time, I'll find that 25th, 26th hour in the day and start working on that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Maybe we'll give you a write-up, Augusto. We might let you be tortured a little bit more first. Cool.
Yeah, the regex is hard to do CTFs on because contextually there are multiple ways to do it. I think the tips I put in there, if you look at the lab, I give you examples. Don't do anything more complex than the examples I give, and it should be a direct answer. But you can do more sophisticated matching that effectively won't do it. I would really like CoreStack to be able to actually apply regex and see the capture that comes out and says, yes, it matched, instead of trying to match the syntax of the regex. And I think that would be way more valuable long run. If there was a regex match feature. Maybe something to ask Chris and gang over there.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Swizz. Yeah.
They're like an automated, you submit the regex and it just applies it to the problem.
Yeah, you give your test case in the regex and I just say, hey, the value should be, this string. The answer should be the actual string from the test case. And if your regex works and returns at a result, then it passes. So now you could do any regex you want and it would work, in theory.
Cool. Very good.
That's going to be hard to do with some input validation when you allow all that special characters into a form field, though.
Yeah. That's where it gets complicated. Might need a separate question type, hint, hint, to the audience member.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah, awesome. I think we can sort of start tailing it off over here. Again, thank you everyone for attending. This has been really good. This is just the start of things to come. We've got a new platform now. It's awesome. We've got a new course that has kicked it off over here, Detection Engineering by Tallis Jordan. We got a great CTF that's actually still up that you can go and check out. That was the entry giveaway CTF for the course that we launched, and that was made by Greg over here. And then the fundamentals are up as well too, as a good prep to get ready for the course if you're still a little bit rough on some of the fundamental knowledge around protocols, networking, and the various things that can build up to Detection Engineering course. So that being said, again, thank you very much for attending. That's all I've got. I'll pass it over to Greg and Tallis to a little handoff, and if you guys have anything else to say, feel free.
I think I'm good. If anyone ever has any questions, feel free to DM me.
Cool.
I'm not going to answer you within 30 seconds, but
Yeah, fair enough. Manage expectations. I really hope you enjoy the course. This is something I'm passionate about. I really have liked detection engineering over the last 2 years. Everywhere is a little bit different. I think from what I've heard and seen from the course, Tallis is going to explain a lot of the nuance and variances, right? Like, so as you go through the course, what do you like about testing? You're like, well, I would love to work in an environment where I had this data and I could just play with that data. Okay, well, those are really important questions that you could bring with you to interviews and when you're looking at businesses. And it also allows you, if you're understanding and identifying those things, that's how you start to not look like an entry-level detection person when you start talking about data normalization, collection strategies, visibility. Those are a lot of the nuanced discussions that are the hardest things to solve and do well, but they're the most interesting things, and they really dictate how you do detection engineering at that organization. So I just hope you pull those things out of the course. You know, you have the labs. He's providing you the guidance to set it up at home. And I'll just say this, and this is just the real talk here. You go through this course and you just stop and you're like, well, what do I do next? There are literally thousands of atomic red team tests through Snap Attack and various communities where people have made these things. Like, you have a ridiculous amount of content. When you have these skills and knowledge, there's nothing stopping you from learning about threats, adversaries, and how they operate. And if you want to know more about threats, write detections for them, because you have to research the threats. You have to read the intel reports. You have to look at the blogs and the slides and hear the podcasts, and you will really start to understand adversary goals, behaviors, techniques, system and Windows, internals, and that of other operating systems as well. Detection engineering, if you're aggressive about it, is literally, in my view, a door to really understanding how it all comes together, because a poor detection engineering team can bring down the best SOC imaginable. A great detection engineering team can make the whole team just badass. So we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders as detection engineers, and I hope it's something you enjoy doing, you're passionate about, and you have a blast doing it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's probably been the funnest part of my job since I've been in the industry, honestly. The only thing that consistently keeps me to where I enjoy work.
Mm-hmm. It's always something new.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just going to continue to emerge, right? Like it's really starting to evolve.
You brought up the AI thing. I just see, like, that's not a threat to me. That just means I can use AI to remove all the BS other AI things that are happening, and I can just focus on more interesting challenges.
Yeah.
Agreed.
100%. And I'm looking forward to hearing some stories of when you have to go toe to toe against the first emergent AI that has become an APT of its own, and you have to detect it. That's going to be an interesting story, and I'm sure it's coming. So cool. Once again, thank you very much. I'm going to end the event over here now. We'll be around in Discord. You can kind of ping us around. But once again, thank you all very much for attending. We'll get this uploaded to our YouTube channel and probably go live on Tuesday for all those that were able to attend. Maybe want to listen again or just listen for the first time.